Welcome to another tutorial with me, Sandy, from Lincolnshire Fen Crafts. Well, actually, I am Lincolnshire Fen Crafts, apart from a little bit of help from the hubs and the family. Really excited about today's tutorial because we're going to be making a collar. I absolutely love these little hedgehogs. Absolutely gorgeous and so simple to make, and you can just have so much fun with them. So really looking forward to this. Suitable for beginners onwards. If you've never needle felted before, then this is absolutely a great tutorial to watch. You learn all about basic shapes, but it's also really good fun. So what I've done is, before I start the tutorial, just let you know I've put together this is a new needle felting kit. Just pop those to one side. So what I've done is I've popped together a little box with everything in that you need. The only thing I haven't put in is the foam, so you'll have the option to add that if you want to, but some people have the foam at home or they have something suitable. So in here is everything you'll need, including the glass beads for eyes, which are bigger than I normally use, but Colin really needs big eyes because of all the fur that's around his head. You've got your little stick here, which will become apparent in a little while. I've also put in two standard felting needles, which is what I basically use all the time, the sort of good all-rounders. And then what I've also put in is a finer needle, 40 triangle, and we will also be using a reverse felting needle, so that's in the box for you as well as all the walls. There's enough to make at least 3 Colin hedgehogs in there. So, well, if you made one, you're not going to want to give it away. So you've got to make more than one. So there'll be enough to make 3 Colins, and you can make smaller ones. You can make one big one and a little one. You can have some little hoglets. You could have a whole little family. Entirely up to you. Anyway, we'll get going. Pop the Colins there. First thing we're going to do is make the basic body shape, which is usually how we always start with needle felting. I'm using Grey Jacob. It's going to be tucked under another layer, so please don't worry about having this all perfect. It doesn't have to be a perfectly round shape. It's going to be covered up, so it just doesn't matter. But what we'll do is we'll get the body shape made, and I'll show you some techniques to get that done quite quickly so that you don't spend hours needle felting. This really is an hour and a half's project, maybe 2 hours if you're new. If you've needle felted before, then you could easily do one of these in an hour. So off we go. So in your box there is enough for 3 of the Colin hoglets. So what I've done is just taken a third off. So just split it into 3. If you want to do 4, split it into 4. If you want to do double the size, then half it and make another little one. But you'll have extra in there anyway. You probably get more out of that, but there's enough for at least 3 of this size. Okay, so off we go. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, because we're making a body and we want quite a nice sort of roundish shape, to save you time on felting, what I like to do, save myself time on felting, what I like to do is put a knot in the middle. And then with this one, we've got plenty here, we can do that twice. So you've got a solid core already, so that means that really isn't going to need felting, and it's given you a nice start to this body shape that we're going to make. Then what we're going to do is we're going to just put one tail to the side, so you can see, and we're just going to wrap, turn it around that way, so you can see. We're just going to, now look what I'm doing, can you see how hard I'm pressing in? You can do this if you use foam, exactly the same thing, doesn't make any difference whatsoever. Following exactly the same principles. So just going to fold that round, and you see how firm that is already, and I haven't even popped the needle in there yet. So I'm just going to do that now. So I'm just going to take my general felting needle, which there's 2 in the box, and it's a 38 and it's a good all-rounder, and it's just to catch that layer that I've wrapped around. And you can hear that noise. That's because we tied the knot in to start with. So it's already firm. So this is really just to turn and felt again. And remember to push in at the sides, and when you're doing that, watch your fingers. Keep your fingers apart, like so. And then keep turning, and we'll catch all these. And you can pull the ends in with your fingers. Keep turning as we go. And that side as well. We don't want a perfectly round shape because he's going to be like a wee ball and he's going to wobble all over. So we really want the base to have some flatness to it, but we'll do that as we go. So don't think, oh, I need to have this perfectly round like a tennis ball. You don't. You really want that flat base. If you lifted a hedgehog up, you'd find they're not round like a tennis ball. They just look like they are. Okay, so you can see there. So we've got a little tail there, and we've got a nice firm shape. So then all we're going to do, turn it where that tail's left, and we're just going to roll it over. You see? Just get that in there. Do you see how quickly we have managed to get this felting done because we tied those knots in at the start? It really does make a difference. And never roll your body shapes or your main shape loosely unless you're doing soft felting, which is a different way of needle felting, usually when you're using wire armatures. And watch that finger, just keep it steady with one hand and just work around it. And you see you've got a bit loose here. Just tuck that in with your needle and continue. And remember, with this, we're not going to put a layer on afterwards to tidy it up because we don't need to, because we're going to be covering this in a like a little sheet of batting, which is going to be a different colour, and you will see why a little bit later. So can you see we've got our shape already, and that's just needs a little bit of firming up. And because we've rolled it tight and because we've put the knot in the middle, it is less than halved the amount of needle felting time. So that's my top tip for this video. Well, two top tips. The knot in the middle, 2 knots in the middle. If you're doing a teeny Colin hedgehog, then just 1. If you're doing a little family of them, you'll be doing 5 or 6 or something like that. And then when you roll around that knot, make sure it's firm, because if it's loose, it just takes forever to needle felt. And I am all about speeding things up. That's why I like to do the videos in real time, so that you can actually see the amount of time it takes. And that is, what, 9 minutes. 9 minutes in, not even that because I was waffling, so 8 minutes in and our body is done. And if you're just starting, then you probably want to stop the video and carry on with it for a little while until you're happy with the shape. But this is really rough, and we've got a kind of flat area there, and if you haven't, then you can flatten it out with your hand there. Can you see? Alright. So that's the core, the centre of the hedgehog made. So I'm going to put that just here, and I'm not going to cover it with the rest of the body, the wool that we're going to be using for the body yet. I'm going to make the head, because we need to put the head on before we put the layer on top. So in your pack, you'll see this. It's basically a skewer, a wooden skewer with a point on the end, and that's where we're going to wrap the head. And the reason we're doing this is because we want a cone shape, and this is the easiest way to create it. You could use a chopstick, but this is a bit thinner, so you don't get any hollow areas in, but a chopstick would work absolutely fine. But I put these in your packs anyway, so you'll all get one of these to make the heads. So again, in your pack, in your kit, you'll get this lovely wool batting, and it's very coarse, and it's kind of a mousy colour. It's kind of got it's tinges of orange and grey. It's kind of it's just a really nice light, I would say, mouse colour, and it's really rough, and you'll find sort of little bits of vegetable matter in it, which is fine because it's natural wool. And what we're going to do is you will have enough again for 3 in this. So as I said before, split everything into thirds. And then what we're going to do is you're just going to hold. Now you don't need anything to stick this. You're just going to wrap the wool around on itself, and then we'll just poke it a few times with a needle for it to hold. You don't need any wax. You don't need anything sticky. Your fingers and your needle is more than enough. So, and if you start to wrap it and you're not quite happy with it, then unravel it and keep your fingers about 1.5 inches once you get going down the wooden skewer, so that the face doesn't become really long, because it looks really odd. That's what I did when I first made one. I've had a few attempts at this to make it as simple as possible and to make sure the technique's as thorough as possible. Okay, so you've got your wispy bit there at the end. Just wrap that round, hold with your hands, and then just wrap that round the top bit. And you can see you've got your point there. And then keep going round and round again. And really tight. And you can pull this really tight. If you hold it close to the wooden skewer, then it's not going to pull away. If you hold it further away, then naturally wool will just sort of separate. So there we go. So this is going to be the nose. So keep wrapping, and then we're moving it down slightly. Sorry guys. Keeping our fingers just pushed up against it so that we can create this cone shape. If you're making Christmas trees, this is really good as well. A good way to get a nice shape, and the chopsticks are really handy for that. Just thought I'd pop that in there. Okay, so can you see how that is starting to take shape now? And we haven't touched it with a needle yet at all. So I've actually got too much here. I think you're going to be able to make more than 3 collins with this. So then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold it there. Fingers, bend your fingers so that if you do actually put yourself, you're going past your nails. And just a few pokes, just so that it holds. It might look a bit awkward the way I'm doing it. I'm doing it so that you can see from the camera angles, but and that's it. I've got all this left, so all I'm going to do is just, as I said before, you pull gently away and then just wrap those loose strands around. Now this is quite loose here, don't worry about that, because we're going to be felting that into the head. We kind of want, we do want that. And then just wrap those around and then just pull it off the skewer. So you've kind of got this, you've got this loose wool here where your hands have been, where we haven't pulled it very tight, but we need that because we want that to push into the head. So all we're going to do now is just use our needle and just firm it up. And when you do the nose, if you actually go in straight on, or you can go diagonal, but I go straight down, and then push down the sides just to improve that cone shape as we are going down. It's really forgiving, this wool, because it's a batting and it's all been carded in different directions. You don't see any needle marks as you would with, well, I don't use merino for needle felting unless it's for colours anyway, for colour blending, just because it takes too long to felt and it shows lots of needle marks. So it's lovely for blending, fabulous for wet felting, but for needle felting, I really don't use it. I have an organic felting kit which has organic merino in it, just because I can't find any of the organic whites, pure organic, that's been GOTS tested anywhere else. I have a really good supplier who can get me that, and it's got traceability, so I know where it comes from. Okay, there we go. So that's Colin's head. But there's little loose bits here, you can just push them down a little bit, but don't worry too much about that. Okay, so now we have a body, or part of a body, and we have a head. Now just find a squidgy part on the body and decide where the head's going to go. Now the head does not want to sit at the bottom of the body because it just looks a bit odd. You kind of want his head so it's going to sit up like that. So come further to the top, and then you can just, you have to do this, but you can sort of see where it's going there. And then we'll just pop a little bit more of this wool in here, just tuck it into the centre. Now we're not going to put the nose on, because what happens is when you're actually attaching it to the body, it will move around. So we'll put the nose on and it'll end up skew with. So we'll do that. I think that's going to be okay. So let's find, yeah, that's sitting quite nicely. So decide, look at it head on, and decide, I think that's about okay. So then just hold Colin's head with 2 fingers as such, and then just push through. And what this is doing is it's taking the wool from the head and tangling it with the wool from the body, which is what gets it to attach. Now there you go. Already you can see that's holding, it's waggling about, but that's fine. And then go around, turn it around, do exactly the same all the way around. Don't worry about position too much at the moment, it doesn't matter, let's just get it on. And again, you might want to stop the video for this, you know, while you get it, especially if you're a beginner, take you a little bit more time to get used to it. And it looks really odd at the moment, I promise you it won't when we're finished. And then what you can do is you can actually go further up the head, and that will draw it in even further, but we're going to be wrapping around some wool batting, so we're going to lose some of this. We don't want the head to be too big. So now you can see it's really starting to hold. So I'll just let you carry on with that, and I'll carry on with mine, just tidy it up a little bit for a few minutes, and then we'll put the rest on. Okay, so we've got our head firmly on now. Should look a little bit like this. Just a quick tip, if the face, if the head's too long, you can actually push into the body like this and go in diagonally, and that will shorten the head. So this is what you've got at the moment. So this is sat in here, nestled away. Then what you want to take is the sheet, the batting sheet that you have got in your kit, and this is brown Shetland. Again, really coarse, lovely. I love working with this. I love the wool tops as well. The brown Shetland wool tops, use those all the time. But this is what we're going to wrap little Colin Hedgehog in. So from your sheet, which is quite a lot in there, just tear off. And the beauty of this is you can just add bits on if you've got too much or too little, or you want to patch up. And then sit Colin in. Just pull that bit off. And we're going to wrap him with his head out like a blanket. So we're just going to pull that over and just use your needle to hold the bottom. So this is the bottom of the hedgehog. And we're just wrapping this sheet around like a blanket, and this needs to be a different colour, and the reason it needs to be a different colour is because when we use our reverse felting needle, just pull this round and tuck it in around the head. When we use our reverse felting needle, it's going to pull up the grey strands of the Jacob from the body underneath the top layer, and it's going to give you a two-tone colour, which it really needs. Gives it more dimension. Okay, so Colin's in there somewhere. So I've used quite a lot here. I didn't need to use that much, so I'm just going to tear off. Just put that, in fact, don't even need that on there. See, little does actually go a very long way. And then turn it round, so you can see there's his head. So just we'll just poke that in there. We're hardly going to felt this top layer because we want it to be quite nice and springy. And we're going to felt it down, but just loosely. Let me see what we're doing there. Okay, again, just want to cover this up. So pull it over like a blanket. And far too much there. And so it's the bottom area, wrap it round. So you're kind of gathering it all at the bottom of the hedgehog, pulling it round. To a sort of central area, as you can see here. Again, don't worry about the shape because, as you can see, that's all going to disappear. And this is the bottom as well. And also kind of, it's okay to flatten this. You really do want to have it flat because you want Colin not to wobble about. And then in here. So can you see how much bigger he is now as well, and how he's really getting that really nice shape. Don't worry about any lines or dents or things, marks here that you can see that don't look particularly great, because he's going to have a sort of halo of spikes around here, so that's going to be completely covered up, and his eyes are going to be put on first in here. So then just go around and just very quickly felt. Around like so. You see, there we go. Still looking quite odd, but you can see this shape here, and he's actually, let me put him on a flat surface, he's sitting nicely. That's why I said don't put the head at the bottom, because you kind of want his head so he looks inquisitive. So he's sitting up. Okay, now normally I would wait until the end to put the eyes on, but I'm going to do it now because we're actually going to wrap the halo around it. The eyes that you get in your pack, you get 3 sets of eyes, and they're these lovely, they're glass beads, and I always use glass because they just have such a nice glint to them. And some projects you can get away with, you know, needle felt on the eyes. If I'm making hairs, then I like to needle felt my eyes on because there's a lot going on with the hair eyes. But if an animal has black eyes, then I like to use the beads. And you can felt on, there's absolutely no problem with that, but try and make sure you put that little bit of white in it so that they don't look like the devil. That little bit of white that you put in is the light reflecting on the eye if you're going to use it. But otherwise, I use these. Now I'm just very quickly, I know I don't need to teach most of you how to put the eyes on, but I am just going to quickly show you. I'm just unthreaded my needle that I had ready for you. You can forward this bit, if you know how to sew these eyes on, then you can just forward this bit. Now these beads have holes in the middle, so what you want to do is you want to have the eyes set sort of not too close and tucked in to this area here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to push through with the needle and then push through again. This is just to get the cotton so that it's not just going to pull out as soon as you attach an eye to it. And I always usually run through one side and then to the other where the eyes are going to sit. And then what you do is you get the eye and you pop it through the hole, and there it is. And then just hold it in place, or you don't even have to hold it in place. Push through to the other side again, and then the eye will pull up. And you can just turn where the hole is. You can just wiggle that around as you firm that up. And then come through the other side. You don't have to go through the hole again. You can come through, pull it up, and then go through the hole. Or if you catch the hole, great. That way. And then underneath and back through to the other side again. And then exactly the same. And then you're not having to do it twice. So if you've still got this thread now, you can pop your second bead on and do exactly the same. So I'll let you finish doing that and then we'll start with the rest. Okay, so we've got both our eyes on. Now at this point you can see kind of where the face is a bit soft and you've lost the eye detail a little bit there. So all you need to do is just push the needle around the eyes. Don't worry about the thread, it shouldn't, well, I've never had it come undone just by using the needle around it. And you see that you're just kind of flattening this nose area and around the sides here, because you really want to see those eyes. These are making it look really cute in a non-cute kind of way. This is my non-cute, cute hedgehog. A lot of people use the spines, but you can get the synthetic spines, I think. But I just like to use the wool, so that's why how I came up with this. I was just sort of playing about for a while, and I tried a couple of things and just didn't like it, and it was sort of one of those happy accidents that I ended up with these. So you will see what I mean when we start using that reverse felting needle. There we go. So that's his face done. Now we've got to just add a little nose on here. They've got big noses, hedgehogs, and they're not particularly shaped in a precise way. So this is, again, in your pack, this is like a brown black batting, and the reason I'm using this as well again is because it's really forgiving. So when you put the nose on, you're not going to see any needle marks. And when I say you only need a small amount, I mean I'm putting loads in, you can always blend that as well if you wanted to add some blended colours in. You just pull off a little bit, about half that amount, so you can see there. And then just roll it between your fingers. And then you create what I call a little seed shape. So pop it in the palm of your hand and just roll it around until it starts to firm up. So we've not even touched this with a needle. So because the properties of wool means it naturally wants to tangle and bind on itself because it's made up of little scales, it will do that automatically. And you can see we've got that little seed shape. This kind of works for any nose that you're making, a basic nose. You can also use that for eyebrow detail if you want as well on a project. It works really, really well just to give the eyes some dimension. But we're going to use this for the nose. So, can you see that? We're going to hold that. In fact, just before I do that, I'm just going to get in your pack, you will see that you have got a needle marked and it says 40T, which just means 40 triangle, and that's a fine needle than the one we've been using, so we'll use that to pop the nose on. Don't worry about getting it in position to start with, and watch the fingers, so just poke in one side. This needle is much more bendy, so be careful with it because they break more easily. The finer the needle, the easier they will break. But when you're only doing little things like this, and just pop that on there. And you see you've almost got that nose on. And then look at it straight on and just felt it down. If it's not right, then just pull it off and do it again. There's plenty of wool in your pack to mess about with this, and this is the instance where you can actually, I think that's just about right. It's quite a nice little nose there. You can make it rounder and flatter if you want, but it doesn't really matter. I think that's okay. I think it looks quite okay. You see, they're all different. It's a big nose. Bigger nose. So, and I, believe it or not, I did look at photographs as well. I mean, photographs, even when you're making this type of animal, needle felted animal, even though it's so basic, having a look at a picture of the real animal does make the difference, and it does help. And I always try and use that as a reference. So that's another one of my tips. Just when you want to get the shapes right, and then what you can do is don't try and pull away with the fine needle, but you can just use the needle, get your fingers down the bottom to just tease some of the wool out if you want to make it a bit bigger. But I'm happy with that. I am happy with that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to get our reverse needle and we're going to mess him up. This needle is quite a fierce reverse needle, so keep firm hold of it, because when you pull out, what you're going to do is you're going to be pulling the wool out. But you want to be moving quite quickly, so we'll start at the side and just move along. Don't go all over and you'll drag some of the wool out with you as well. But keep firm hold of him. And can you see what's happening? Is you are pulling that grey and that brown back out. So this reverse needle is doing what it says. It's a reverse needle, it's pulling the wool back out. You see all these loose bits. So go all the way around, keep firm hold of him, because this does tug. It's not like when you're pushing in with your felting needle, it's quite smooth. This is pulling in the opposite direction, so it wants to pull away. So go around all the sides, close to the bottom of him, but not underneath. And then work around again. It doesn't matter which way you work it, just be careful of your fingers. and then towards the centre. You're probably thinking, what on earth, all that work I've just done, it looks so neat, but we don't want it to look neat. Now this was where the happy accident came in, because after I'd done this, I thought, oh, that's pulled way too much out. And it just looks scruffy. So then what I did was I felted it back in again. You see how we're doing this? So you can go around his head down. You've been quite rough with him. Don't worry about, you know, squishing him and changing the shape. But get quite a lot out. So now you can see. So he's looking very raggy. I mean, I quite like him like that, but we're not going to leave him like that. You can if you want, but I'm not going to leave him like that. Okay, right, so reverse needle to one side, comes in a little tube, so you know which is your reverse one as well. So I would pop it back in the tube so you don't get muddled up, but you'll know as soon as you start using it what it is. So I got to this point and thought, oh, that's not worked. So I thought, oh, right, okay, well, I'll just gently felt that back in. Until I decided how I was going to do it. So still quite loose though, because you need to be able to get hold of this. So this does not want to be firm. This is a really loose top layer that you've just pulled it out and now you're felting it back in again. But very loosely. It needs to look very scruffy. Okay, so that should just about do it. So this is Colin as he is now, not quite there yet. What we're going to do next, before we make the spikes around the body, we're going to put some halo of spikes around his head. In your box, or in your kit, you will find a length of brown Shetland. This is wool top, so it's all been brushed in the same direction, as opposed to the Shetland batting, which has been carded in lots of different directions to get that nice rough spongy squidgy bounce back kind of feel. And I'm going to show you how to make a halo of spikes, and this works really well. You can use this method as well for any long hair. If you're making dogs, cats, and you want long fur, then this works exactly the same sort of principle. So this is a really useful technique. So just pull off a little piece, and then go to your grey wool, which is what his body's made out of, and just with your hands, just blend the grey and the brown together. And this does make a difference to the finish, having these two colours blended together. And lay that on your pad, on your mat or your foam pad, and just draw a line across, roughly halfway, and fold it over. And lift it up. So can you see what I've done? I've folded it over, so you've got like a double layer there, and this straight edge here where the fold is where we're going to put Colin's halo of spikes. So I'm just going to start between the eyes and just push where you folded it. Just push the wool in. This all wants to stay loose, like a troll. And then as you go around, just work around the eye, so pull it around the eye. Can you see what's going on there? Just, it's kind of halfway around, so just till it's felted into there. And the only bit you've really felted on is where that where you'd folded the wool, because the rest all needs to be loose because we're going to trim that. And you can just pull it down a little bit, and then if you want you can go pull it forward and then just felt a little bit from the back. And that is how you start your layers of wool. Really easy once you know how. Just takes a bit of time to, you know, if you're doing a full animal, this doesn't. This is you can do in the front, but it really does look gorgeous. I really like this little halo. I think it really makes it. So there we go. So that's what you've got at the moment. All this loose wool here, just attached around this part of the head and the eyes. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take a pair of scissors and we're going to snip it. And we're going to cut all the way around it in an arc, kind of arch shape. So we've got this here. Okay, and then put what you've cut to one side and then just go in again and just trim. So you see what we've got here? And then hairdresser style, we are going to snip into all of these strands. Because we want to thin it out. And then just pull off the loose bits that we've snipped. Take your needle again and just poke it in again and pull it back from the eyes now. Just felt in again. Okay, and then we shall finish those spikes in a moment. Just make sure it's not going to lose. So if there's anything loose, just go around gently and pull off any loose strands. Don't let the dog or the kids get hold of this. It's not, you know, it's really small fibres, so make sure you put it straight in the bin, unless you're going to use it for something else. So you've trimmed into it. You've got all these nice different layers now. So when we actually do the spikes, that's going to look really good. Right, let's get on to the final stages. Just leave those that little halo of spikes there for now as they are. We're not going to do anything with that just yet. And before we actually create all the spikes on his body, we need to pop his little hedgehog ears on. So what you need to do is just take a small piece, really sort of small thin piece, of the same wool batting that we used for the face. This sort of mousy colour. Right, I'm just going to put him to one side. And what we're going to do is just going to put it in between your fingers like so. I'm going to fold it over so you've got enough plus a little bit extra. there, take that off, and then we're just going to hold where we've folded it and twizzle the loose ends just so that they stay together. And this is the area that's going to be actually attached to the head. I'm going to create a really nice little round ear with this shape. So you've got a petal shape. Once you've done that, take your needle and just pull in from the sides, just so that it's looking nice and round. And just pull in from the sides and into the bottom there. This bit's going to stay loose. Can you see how straight away, as soon as we've done that, if you're using a foam pad, see, you can hear it on there. And it's just a round shape, basic round shape, doesn't have to be perfect. And then make sure you keep turning that as you felt, because otherwise, and you're just going through the top layer of foam, you don't want to be pushing right the way through, no need. I know it sounds better, but you're actually shortening the life of your foam pad, which you don't really want to do, to keep them as long as possible. And then what you can actually do is, with your fingers, if there's any bits that you're not happy with the shape of, just pull them in with your fingers. But I wouldn't worry too much about the shape, just get it quite nice and firm. We want the loose tail end to stay loose, and then we want this to be quite firm, and keep turning. And then if you want, you can go around like that if you want to change the shape, but that's pretty much okay. And you can felt a bit more if you want it firmer, but just because I don't want to be prolonging the video more than I need to for you, that's going to do for me. Okay. So then what you'll notice on the little ears is they've got this little crease there. These are quite small, and we'll reduce the size when we make that crease. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold it over where the round area here finishes and the tail end starts. We're just going to fold it in half almost, lay it on its side, and just felt along that fold just so that it holds. And you can take that off, and you can see how we're creating that nice little bit there. It's just vegetable matter, it's just the natural fibres because it's natural wool. And there you can see we've got a little cup shape which makes a lovely little ear. And you can make it even more cup shaped by just poking around there with your needle in the middle, just in the centre. And then at the back you've got this loose wool, and you can either just felt that back in, or you can go around it carefully and trim with a pair of scissors. But to be honest, once this is attached to the head and surrounded by spikes, you won't see any of that anyway. So, can you see that? Nice little cup shape with a tail on the end. There we go. So we need one more of those, roughly the same size. It doesn't have to be exact though, don't worry too much about that. Like I say, as you can see, the ears are sort of hidden away behind here. You can firm it up a little bit more if you want. I'll make a second ear, and then I'll join you back in a few minutes. Okay, so time to put these ears on, and this is really simple, and don't be too precious about this, because like I said, they're hidden behind this halo of spikes here, and then we're going to lift all of this wool around it. So don't be too precious. What you want to be precious about is the positioning. So where his eyes are, his eyes, his ears and just sit about there. So in line with his eyes really, and off to the side. So just where that tail is, we've kept that loose, that's the bit that we're going to use to felt in to start with. So needle, and just see this loose bit here? We are just pushing that in behind. Don't worry about the positioning of the ear just yet. We'll move that around once we've got it on. And you can see already how that's in position. And if you want to stop the video at this point while you're getting this right, then do so and come back, because it can be a bit fiddly, especially if you're doing it for the first time and you're trying to get that position right. But there we go, you've got one ear there nicely in position, and then get the other one going on the opposite side in about the same position. So lay that flat tail end down, that's the bit we're going to be felting in. And can you see how that ear pulls in automatically? As you're pushing that wool into the back of the hedgehog, it's drawing the wool down, it just wants to tangle in, and immediately your ears are pretty much attached. And if you think they're sticking up too much, these are bigger than those, but it doesn't matter. But you can just keep felting down and it shrinks them. It doesn't shrink them, it pushes the wool into the body and reduces the height. So that's pretty much it for the ears. And we've still got this nice halo in front of them. Okay. Right, so we're almost there. We've just got to create the spikes now. Saved the best bits until last. I like to do that. Always do that in the workshops. We always save the best till last. Everyone gets quite excited at the end because it all comes together, and you can't believe that this handful of wool that you had at the start is now a gorgeous little animal, and in this case a little Colin. Well, that's what I call him. I think he looks like a Colin. He's a Colin. Always will be Colin to me. Okay. As you remember earlier, we'd felted back in all this wool that we pulled out, and this is how we are going to create his little spikes. Really easy. All you're going to do, because it's loose, so we'll start from the back, I'll just show you. You're going to just pull gently on a little bit of wool so that it's loose, and then you're going to twizzle with your fingers, and that has created your first spike. And then we're just going to pull another little bit up, and we're going to go all the way around. I'm going to do this quite quickly. You'll want to probably take a little bit more time than me. So you go all the way around the sides. Use both hands if you want to separate, if it's catching with the wool. And can you see how we're creating these spikes? I know you can get spikes to put straight onto these, but I like doing the whole thing, and I just like working with the wool. I just prefer it this way, and I prefer this look. It's a bit more individual, but you know, a lot of people like that really realistic look, but that's not what I'm going for here. And I love using this wool. It's really, really nice to work with. we go. Can you see all those spikes developing now? Looking good. So I'm not going to overdo it, but as you can see with these, you've got quite a lot going on there. So you could play with that a bit more and get those spikes done after the video. And if you find that they're too long or that there's too much going on, you can just pop it back in again and then lift it again and retwizzle. But it's all about using your thumb and your forefinger. Getting a really nice twist on that. Okay. Now, as you recall, we had this little halo here that we did earlier on, and I'm going to create the spikes on here because I want to see these ears behind. You can leave it like that if you want to, but I'm going to put some spikes on mine. So again, exactly the same thing, and because we'd snipped into it and created those layers, you've got thin and thick parts and shorter and longer areas, and it just adds lots of detail and dimension to him. Can you see that, how we're twizzling away? And there we go. Gorgeous. So, like I said, I'll work on these spikes a little bit longer when I finish the video, but I won't sit here and do that now. And that's something you can do as well. And there he is, all finished. Colin the hedgehog. So, there we go, our little guys, all ready. Like I said, you can make at least three from the kit. Probably more, depending on what size you're doing. And you can pop over to the website or the Etsy shop and you will be getting one of these when you order your kit. So you've got all the wools you need, all the British wools, all natural. You've got your beads, you've got all the needles that you need, your reverse, your standard and your fine needle, as well as your wooden skewer for shaping that head. That will all come to you. As I said, enough for 3 of the hedgehogs. This has to be, I think, my favourite tutorial so far, and I hope it's yours as well. And thanks for popping by, and happy felting, keep creating, and see you at the next tutorial.